The world's population is booming. Farmland is shrinking. So you've got to get more bushels per acre of everything, or you've got a big mess. Do growers think about this stuff?
Yeah, I don't think you quit thinking about it.
I've lived here all my life. My family came over here at the end of the Civil War, and we've been here ever since.
My grandfather started it in the 40s. It wound up being passed down to my mother and then on to me.
My dad was actually born here on the farm in the back bedroom in this house. If it wouldn't be for my dad, I guess I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
My father had passed away at a younger age, and so I decided to come back and take over the family farm. It was hard, just being around here with him not here. But every day I'm glad I made a decision. It's a lot of work, but I grew up doing it.
Well, my great-grandfather bought it. His daughter married my grandpa, and they moved here on the farm and acquired it from him when he passed, and I'm the fourth generation.
You know, there's a lot of different reasons. Probably one of the most important ones is to keep farming in the Poon family. Not many people get an opportunity to do it. It doesn't work that way. It's got to be in the family.
There are more than 2 million growers in America, and every one of them has the same concerns. Bad weather, low prices, higher costs, and how to get the most out of every acre. In 2015, Agrison, part of Loveland Products, hired a team to follow 5 growers from planting to harvest. 3 of our growers are in Iowa, the heart of the Corn Belt. The other 2, M.H. Bitely and his cousin Norman McPherson, are in southeastern Arkansas, in a town called Grady.
Farming is never finished. There's always some little something that can be done, can be cleaned, can be put up, can be checked on. You literally cannot completely relax as long as we're in Lincoln County.
No, but I farm in my mind. I hadn't used an alarm clock in my life really to get me up or to be sure I was up. So I got up to 2:45, and it's just, you know, ready to go.
You can have several family members together.
Well, I love Grady. It's laid back. People, you know, just about everybody here. We don't have crime. Everybody looks after each other. And man, when we would go away for a weekend or for a week, you didn't lock the house up because we didn't have a key to the doors. And
the locks didn't work anyway, so it didn't matter if you had a key.
We went to Corn College this winter. I take them to where they can learn the stuff. We study year-round as to what new technology is, because if you're not keeping up with technology, then it's difficult to stay in business.
As I mentioned this morning, we really don't want to change any of our focus on old crop. This is just another reminder there's plenty of old corn around. But in the world numbers, we would point out they raised the Brazilian corn crop estimate 3 million tons. This is a reflection of the extremely good safrinha crop. We're going to have challenges here going forward in terms of question marks about overall feed consumption, bird flu, and so forth, and also concerns about new crop export competitiveness.
There's very little margin for error. 40 years ago, you can make a bad crop and probably pay it off the next year. You make a disaster today, and you may never come out of it.
With low prices on grain, it can be the difference between profit and loss. I mean, you need every acre to produce what it's capable of producing.
The markets kind of fell way back, and fertilizer prices and seed prices never did, and land rents up. With the grain prices, there's really not much money to be made in grain farming. It's darn near a wash. There's not a big margin for error.
This year it could be a make or break. I mean, you know, we're right at the cost of production. The price of corn is, or the price of beans, either one is that's what makes or breaks us. So we need every bushel we can.
20 years ago, 140, 150 bushel corn was really good, and then it got up to 180, and then it got up to 200, and now we're shooting for 250 and 300, and by the year 2030, we'll need to average 280 or 300 bushel of corn, whatever it is. Well, it's not going to happen right now. We got to have products like this.
Prices are down, inputs are, you know, down to relatively flat, and so guys are wanting to know that when they spend money, they're getting a product that works and doesn't just work, but you know, they can see that it gives them a return.
So yield is very, I mean, that's the ballgame.
Yield is what keeps people in business here.
I was the first one here to actually use it in the field. And as others have seen what it's done, my neighbors, they've started using it. We saw a definitive difference in where we used it and where we didn't. To begin with, I was just wanting to get rid of the corn stalks.
He said it's the best thing he's ever put on the field. And he says that all the corn cobs just disintegrate, and you can see a difference in the texture of the soil.
You can see this as you walk past the fields. Between my neighbor's field that hadn't used it, it sticks out like a sore thumb because it actually has changed it that much. It's kind of like fertilizer for microbes.
The Iowa growers, Lyle Teggles, Scott Poon, and Jeff Frank, are part of a multi-year study to see if Accomplish LM and Titan PBA from Loveland Products can help them boost yield, and to determine if these fertilizer biocatalysts can help nutrients get where they're supposed to go, the plant.
I like how they're doing these trials. I mean, they're doing them up on a 90-foot trial. I mean, they're trying to do everything to eliminate any type of probabilities here. Like I said, I think we're in this just early stages, you know, 1 year into it, and we're anxious to see how it works.
I like the idea of the environmentally friendly product that it is. When you're young, you want to get the most out of everything, and now that I'm a little older, you think of what's going to happen in the future.
Well, we definitely want to make sure that 100 years from now that farm ground is still farmable.
And they're finding out that with these products, that their plants are healthier, they can handle the summer heat so much better that they're able to, you know, keep their yield up even on super hot and dry summers.
But I have to see it for myself. I don't take somebody else's word to be gospel. Prove it to me.
You just got one chance. You're putting the seed in the ground for the whole year, and you got one time to do it right.
So, I mean, if you don't do this right, you're a failure for the whole year. Planting time is key.
I pray about it a lot. I'll be honest with you.
They're anxious. You could say they're very anxious. They're concerned about the weather, and like I said, they're just full of anxiety until they can get the crop in and get it out.
You know, we're at the mercy of
Mother Nature.
Going to experience maybe some thunderstorms late tonight, overnight in northwestern Arkansas. We could have a few showers or thunder showers this evening. And tomorrow, that's when our threat of severe weather becomes a little more likely. I've been here in Arkansas for 31 years. May was the wettest month of any month since they began keeping records 121 years ago. In Arkansas, we doubled our capacity of rainfall, and that caused a lot of severe flooding along the Arkansas River throughout this region. And that southern branch of the jet stream worked right into our region of the country and caused day after day, wave after wave of significant flooding. Slow-moving systems over the same general area for days and days and weeks, and that's what happened in May of 2015.
Spring was wet. We had all of our ground ready to plant last fall. Whenever we catch a day that was dry enough to get into the field, we'd jump in there and plant. And we had about a week that we were able to get all of our corn planted.
Was there ever concern it was going to be too wet?
Yes.
30 inches of rain fell in April, May, and June. So far, July has been dry and is about to get very, very hot.
There you go. We're going to hit 100 this weekend, and it'll stay 100 probably through August.
Is that good for corn or bad for corn?
At this stage, it's good for my corn because it's all we're doing now is waiting on it to dry down some. I've been using Accomplish for several years now. Last year, we cut 234 dry bushels, delivered bushels, and this year we're looking at 250 delivered bushels. I am a happy guy. Earlier in the year, I was an optimistic guy. Now I'm a happy guy. Everything looks great.
And you're gonna be a thrilled guy.
I will be a thrilled guy. I actually run my own combine just to see how thrilled I can be.
A few months ago, MH said, "Prove it to me." But now that his corn is 8 feet tall, he is recognizing the effects that Titan and Accomplish can have.
They kept telling me, you know, you've got the nutrition in the soil, but it's bound and the plant can't get it. And I have been able to see a definite difference. It's like we put out more fertilizer than we actually did because the plant was able to get it.
We're looking at the difference between soil that's had Accomplish and Titan on it and has used all the nutrients that were available versus corn that's had fertilizer put on it, but obviously the fertilizer wasn't as readily available to this one.
Probably the root mass is more than double on this plant than that. If you notice on this one, these brace roots virtually burned off. And on this plant, the brace roots, they attach to the soil and continue to grow.
"700 miles to the north, spring wasn't as wet, and summer hasn't been as hot. So for the Iowa growers, Lyle, Scott, and Jeff, things are looking up."
Well, I try to fly my fields, you know, regularly, look at them from above. We take near-infrared images and it measures chlorophyll is what it's actually doing to see how healthy your plant is. So if you're short nitrogen or you're short of anything, it'll show up. Since you were here last, it has come a long ways. It looks like we got a great crop coming. We've had plenty of rain and not too much, so we don't have a lot of drowned outs. We should be real comparable to last year. I mean, around that 210, 220 mark, I think will catch a lot of the corn. I don't know, we could do a little better than last year, actually.
We never got the big rains that, you know, like farther south got. We've been very, very fortunate. The rains come in at a good time for the corn, and the disease levels have been low, so everything's been good. You know, my goal is to outproduce what we did last year, and last year was the best crop that we've ever had. We ranged anywhere from 200 to 232 bushel the acre.
The crop, as far as moisture is concerned, is pretty well there. It's going to be a dry down situation, you know, whether we get enough warm weather to get the crop where it needs to be when we want to harvest.
At this point, we're doing it. I'm concerned about the weather, that we don't have a hurricane come in out of the Gulf. That's my only concern at this point.
I had a bean field. It was one of my best bean fields here about 4 years ago, and the field looked great, and we had some hail, and 1 week before we combined them, we went from probably 60 bushel beans to 13 bushel. This whole year, everything's led up to a really good corn crop, and things look really good, but I won't be able to tell you till it's in the bin.
It's harvest time. What we wait on all year. It's cooled off. We had excessive heat in second half of July, first half of August. And this is nice.
The verdant green stalks of summer are brown now. Each plant has given its all to produce the yellow ears of field corn that will feed the world for years to come. Harvest comes early in Arkansas, almost 2 months before Iowa corn is ready to pull.
Get up in the morning and probably try and get outside by 6 o'clock and do chores with the livestock. Check if we're drying corn. Go down to the farms and check the bins, make sure the stirrators are working, make sure the heat's running, make sure guys filled up propane, and get out to the farm where the combine's at, grease everything, and then pretty much all day long it's go, 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 and go until the elevator closes, and then fill everything up and come back home and check the bins and get in the house at 11, 12 o'clock, and wake up in the morning and do it all over again.
2015, a year you'll never forget. Started out with a lot of rain, potential flood, couldn't get in the fields forever, had to move cattle because of flood, had to change schedules because of flood, and you did what you had to do whether you were ready or not. Never count your chickens before they hatch, but I think it's going to be overall a good year. My goal was 200 bushel corn. That's the amount of nutrition we put out, was to generate a 200 bushel per acre crop.
There was no late season hurricane in 2015, so Norman is getting yields that are among his best ever.
We're from 263 to 234.
263.
Yes,
What does that number mean to you?
profit.
In Iowa, things are looking just as promising. In a year that Jeff Frank described as make or break, he, Lyle, and Scott are all pulling in record yields, as much as 10 to 15% more than a year ago.
I think the most we've ever combined was 225, all the while I've been farming, and you know, we're having a field hit 235, and it's huge. Oh, it's a blast. I tell you, when everything works right, it's great. They usually tell if I'm happy or if I'm not. I'm very happy today. Life is good.
I knew it was a good year when I got in the combine. I never speculate. It's just not my game. Once we went across the field, I knew it was a good year. Corn's yielding anywhere from 200 to 245. We have some real good producing corn ground, and we have some marginal corn ground, so that's pretty much the difference. Oh, it's a good feeling. You know, harvest time is just a great feeling. I mean, it makes you feel like you've accomplished something.
It's tremendous. It's better than the yield we had last year by probably 10–15%. And last year was really good yields too.
What kind of numbers are you pulling out of it?
Well, this farm is doing a shade under 250 right now. But now we just got 35, 40 mile an hour winds yesterday, so we got some ears on the ground, and that's Mother Nature for you.
The reason for the records? Weather, for one, and, to a man, they think Titan and Accomplish had something to do with it.
The Titan and the Accomplish made the nutrients available, even though it was wet. And between the two, I've just seen my yields consistently go up.
I put Titan on every acre of corn, every acre of soybeans, and every acre of rice. The plants seem to be healthier. Some of the corn that I have planted this year, the soil was very, very mined out. And you would not know it by looking at this corn. It looks as good as any corn as we have. And I think that was because we put the Titan on there, and it did help that soil release what was already there.
This Accomplish, I think it's one of those things that once it gets started working in the soil, I think we'll see big time effects. And so I think it's a tremendous trial. And I think, you know, if we see tremendous results, this is definitely a product that you're going to see a lot of people want to get on board with. Well, I always like when you start talking about something that's a new product, you would be surprised on how a room will stop to listen. And this Accomplish has really got a lot of people looking. I mean, overall, I mean, it's just huge.
I do feel like that in the future that Accomplish will be just as much a part of growing crops as seed. Once guys see the results off of it, it is one of the first things that they plan when they start the year out, is where they're going to put it and how they're going to use it. I mean, it's just as much of their business as putting diesel in their tractor.
I guess we're going to go in the barn, and Ellen fixed up the loft, and we're going to go upstairs and have supper and a few refreshments and enjoy the evening.
As Karen McPherson said back in the spring, farming is never finished. Even before the last ear of corn is pulled in, growers are already thinking about next year. Scott Poon will spend the next month retiling a field. And Norman? Norman is planning for the future by looking into the past. So one day, he might hit that magic number.
What can I do to get 300? That's what we're working for. That's the goal with using these programs. One that CPS Agrison has laid out as to what's the best program to use, and so we're going with that.
Always thinking about next year. I'll do that until I retire.